The doorbell's shrill ring shattered our Sunday afternoon peace. I froze, wooden spoon suspended over the simmering pot of chili. Marty glanced up from his crossword puzzle, eyebrows raised. "Expecting someone, Clara?" he asked. I shook my head, wiping my hands on my apron. "No, must be a neighbor." As I made my way to the front door, Toby thundered down the stairs. "I'll get it, Mom." "Hold on, sweetie," I called, quickening my pace. Something felt off. We rarely had unexpected visitors, especially on lazy Sundays like this. I reached the door just as Toby's hand touched the knob. "Let me, honey." Toby shrugged and stepped back. I took a deep breath, smoothed my hair, and opened the door. The world tilted on its axis. "Hello, Clara," said a voice I hadn't heard in years. "Long time no see." David, my ex-husband, the man I'd hoped never to lay eyes on again. "What are you doing here?" I managed to choke out, instinctively pushing Toby behind me. David's eyes flickered to our son, then back to me. "We need to talk." "Mom?" Toby's voice wavered. "Who's this?" I swallowed hard. "No one important, sweetie. Go help Marty set the table for dinner." "But..." "Now, Toby." He hesitated, then trudged back to the kitchen. I stepped onto the porch, pulling the door closed behind me. "You have no right to show up here unannounced," I hissed. "What do you want?" David's face hardened. "What's rightfully mine? The necklace, Clara." My grandmother's necklace. My hand flew to my throat where the delicate gold chain rested. "What are you talking about? This was a gift." "A gift you have no right to keep after what you did." Anger flared in my chest. "After what I did? You've got some nerve." "Everything okay out here?" Marty's deep voice cut through the tension. He appeared in the doorway, his solid presence immediately calming me. David's eyes narrowed. "And you must be the new husband. How quaint." Marty stepped forward, extending his hand. "Marty Callahan, and you are?" "David Reeves, Clara's first husband." Marty's hand dropped. "I see. Well, Mr. Reeves, I'm not sure why you're here, but..." "He was just leaving," I interjected. David laughed, a harsh sound that set my teeth on edge. "Oh, I don't think so. Not until I get what I came for." Marty's arm slipped around my waist. "Clara, honey, what's going on?" I took a shaky breath. David seems to think he has a claim on my grandmother's necklace." "Your grandmother?" David scoffed. "That necklace belonged to my family for generations. You know that." "It was a gift," I repeated. "From your mother, when we got married. A gift she never should have given you, and one you certainly don't deserve to keep." Marty's grip tightened. "I think you should leave now, Mr. Reeves." David's eyes glittered dangerously. "This isn't over, Clara. That necklace is coming back to my family, one way or another." He turned on his heel and strode down the walkway. I watched him go, my heart pounding. Marty turned me to face him. "Clara, what was that all about?" I shook my head, fighting back tears. "I don't know. I haven't seen or heard from David in years. I don't understand why he's suddenly shown up, demanding the necklace." "Mom?" Toby's voice drifted from inside. "Is everything okay?" I plastered on a smile and called back, "Everything's fine, sweetie. We'll be right in." Marty cupped my face in his hands. "We'll figure this out, Clara. I promise." I nodded, trying to believe him. But as we walked back into the house, I couldn't shake the feeling that our peaceful life was about to be turned upside down, and all because of a necklace I'd almost forgotten I owned. I couldn't sleep that night. David's sudden appearance had unleashed a flood of memories I'd spent years trying to forget. As I tossed and turned, Marty's steady breathing beside me, I found myself transported back to a time I'd rather leave buried. "Clara," Marty's sleepy voice broke through my reverie. "You're thinking so loud I can practically hear it." I sighed, turning to face him. "I'm sorry. It's just seeing David again. It's brought everything back." Marty propped himself up on one elbow, his eyes soft with concern. "Talk to me, honey. What's really going on?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "It's not just about the necklace. It's everything." And so, in the darkness of our bedroom, I began to unravel the tangled web of my past with David. "We were so young when we got married," I started. "So full of hope and dreams, but then..." "The fertility issues," Marty finished softly. I nodded, feeling the old ache resurface. Month after month, year after year, the disappointments, the treatments, the fights. It was killing us, Marty, killing me. "And David, how did he handle it?" I laughed bitterly. "Oh, he handled it all right, by sleeping with his secretary." Marty's sharp intake of breath was audible in the quiet room. "Clara, I had no idea. I never told anyone the whole story," I admitted. "It was too painful." But that's not even the worst part. I sat up, needing to move. Marty followed suit, taking my hand in his. "What happened?" he asked gently. "I found out I was pregnant," I whispered. "The day after I caught him with her. Can you believe it? After all those years of trying, it finally happened. And he had the audacity to question if it was his." Marty's grip on my hand tightened. "That bastard," he muttered. "I left him that day," I continued. "Packed my bags and walked out. His mother, she gave me the necklace, said I deserved something good from that family. And now he wants it back," Marty mused. "But why now? After all these years?" Before I could respond, a muffled thud from downstairs made us both freeze. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. Marty nodded, already sliding out of bed. "Stay here," he instructed, reaching for the baseball bat we kept in the closet. My heart pounding, I listened as Marty crept down the stairs. The seconds stretched into an eternity. Then, suddenly, a crash, followed by raised voices. Unable to stay put any longer, I rushed downstairs, nearly colliding with Toby in the hallway. "Mom, what's going on?" he asked, eyes wide with fear. "Stay behind me," I ordered, pushing him back as we descended the stairs. The scene in our living room made my blood run cold. Marty stood, bat raised, facing off against David, who was clutching something in his hand. "David," I exclaimed, "what the hell are you doing in our house?" He turned to me, his eyes wild. "I told you I'd get what's mine, Clara, one way or another." It was then I realized what he was holding. My jewelry box. "How dare you break into our home?" Marty growled, taking a step forward. David laughed, a manic edge to his voice. "Your home? This should have been my family, my son, my life." "Dad?" Toby's small voice came from behind me. You're my dad?" The room fell silent. David's eyes locked onto Toby, a mix of emotions flashing across his face. "Toby, go back upstairs," I said firmly, not taking my eyes off David. "But Mom, now, Toby!" As Toby's footsteps retreated, David's gaze returned to me. "You kept him from me all these years, Clara, and now you're going to pay." He reached into his pocket, pulling out something that glinted in the dim light. My heart stopped. A gun. The world seemed to slow down as I stared at the gun in David's trembling hand. Marty stepped in front of me, his voice steady despite the tension in his shoulders. "Put the gun down, David. You don't want to do this." David's laugh was hollow. "You don't know what I want. You have no idea what it's like to lose everything." I found my voice, anger overriding fear. "You lost nothing, David. You threw it all away." His eyes, wild with desperation, locked onto mine. "I made a mistake, Clara. One stupid mistake, and you took my son away from me." "You took yourself away," I shot back. "You questioned if he was even yours." The gun wavered in David's hand. I was scared, confused, but I'm here now. I want to make things right. Marty's calm voice cut through the tension. "This isn't the way, David. Think about Toby. What would he want?" At the mention of Toby's name, something in David's eyes shifted. The gun lowered slightly, and I saw a flicker of the man I once loved. "I just want to know my son," he whispered. In that moment, I realized how much Marty had changed my life. His unwavering support, his love for Toby, his ability to bring calm to chaos, it all came rushing to the forefront of my mind. I thought back to the day I met Marty, barely 2 months after leaving David. I was a mess, trying to navigate single motherhood and a high-risk pregnancy. Marty, a friend of a friend, had offered to help me move into my new apartment. "I don't need charity," I had snapped at him. His response was a gentle smile. "It's not charity, Clara. It's what decent people do for each other." That day, as he patiently assembled furniture and hung curtains, never pushing for more than I was willing to give, I felt the first stirrings of hope in months. Over the next year, as I adjusted to life with Toby, Marty became a constant presence. He was there for Toby's first steps, his first words. He was there when I cried over lost dreams and celebrated new beginnings. When Toby was 2, Marty proposed. I hesitated, scarred by my past. "I'm not asking to replace anyone," he had said. "I'm asking to build something new together. You, me, and Toby." Now, facing down my past in the form of an armed and desperate David, I knew with absolute certainty that Marty was the best decision I had ever made. I stepped out from behind Marty, ignoring his attempt to pull me back. "David," I said softly, "put the gun down, please, for Toby's sake." His hand shook. "I just want a chance." "And you'll get one," I promised, though the words tasted bitter. "But not like this. Never like this." Slowly, agonizingly, David lowered the gun. As soon as it left his hand, Marty was there, kicking it away and restraining David. "I've called the police," Toby's voice came from the stairs. We all turned to see him, phone in hand, tears streaming down his face. "Oh, sweetheart," I breathed, rushing to him. As sirens wailed in the distance, I held my son close, Marty's strong presence at our backs. David sagged in defeat, the fight gone out of him. In the chaos of the arriving police and the barrage of questions that followed, one thought kept circling in my mind. How could I ever explain this to Toby? How could I help him understand the complexities of adult relationships, the mistakes we make, and the consequences that follow? As the police led David away, Toby's small voice cut through the noise. "Mom, is he really my dad?" I looked at Marty, seeing the love and concern in his eyes, then back at Toby. Biologically, yes, but being a dad is about so much more than that. It's about love, support, and being there no matter what. Toby nodded slowly, his gaze drifting to Marty. "Like Marty?" "Yes, sweetheart," I said, feeling a lump form in my throat. "Exactly like Marty." The days following David's arrest were a blur of police statements, hushed conversations, and Toby's endless questions. Through it all, Marty remained my rock, his steady presence a balm to my frayed nerves. But as the dust began to settle, a new worry took root. How would Marty's parents react to this mess? I'd always felt a mix of gratitude and unworthiness when it came to George and Helen Callahan. They'd welcomed Toby and me into their family with open arms, never once making us feel like outsiders. Their acceptance was a stark contrast to the cold shoulder my own parents had given me after my divorce. "We should tell them what happened," Marty said one evening, sensing my unease. "They'll understand, Clara." I nodded, but doubt gnawed at me. Would they still see me as worthy of their son after learning about the chaos I'd brought into his life? The drive to the Callahans' sprawling Victorian home the next day felt like a march to the gallows. Toby, blissfully unaware of my inner turmoil, chattered excitedly about showing his grandpa his new remote-controlled car. Helen greeted us at the door, her warm smile faltering as she took in our somber expressions. "What's wrong, dears?" George appeared behind her, his bushy eyebrows furrowed with concern. "Toby, why don't you go set up your car in the backyard?" Marty suggested gently. As soon as Toby was out of earshot, we spilled the whole sordid tale. I watched their faces carefully as we recounted David's reappearance, his accusations, and the terrifying night he broke in. Helen's hand flew to her mouth in shock, while George's jaw clenched tighter with each word. When we finished, silence hung heavy in the air. I braced myself for their judgment, for the disappointment I was sure would follow. Instead, Helen reached out and took my hand. "Oh, Clara," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "what a terrible ordeal you've been through." George cleared his throat. "That man had no right to threaten you or our grandson," he said gruffly. "You did the right thing, calling the police." I blinked back tears, overwhelmed by their unwavering support. You're not ashamed to have me in your family?" "Ashamed?" Helen exclaimed. "Darling, we couldn't be prouder of how you've handled this situation. You've shown incredible strength and grace." George nodded in agreement. "You're a Callahan now, Clara, and Callahans stick together." Their words washed over me like a healing balm, soothing wounds I didn't even know I had. For the first time since David's reappearance, I felt truly safe. But our moment of peace was shattered by the shrill ring of Marty's phone. His face darkened as he listened to the caller. "What is it?" I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. Marty's voice was tight as he replied, "That was my contact at the police station. David's been released on bail." The room spun around me. "How?" I gasped. "He broke into our home. He had a gun." "Apparently he's got some powerful friends," Marty said grimly. "They're claiming it was all a misunderstanding." George stood up, his face set with determination. "This is unacceptable. I won't have my family threatened." "Dad," Marty began, but George cut him off. "No, son, it's time I made some calls. Your Uncle Richard owes me a favor, and he's got connections that could make life very difficult for this David character." I felt a flicker of hope, quickly followed by a wave of guilt. "I don't want to cause any trouble," I said weakly. Helen squeezed my hand. "You're not causing anything, dear. We protect our own." As George disappeared into his study, phone in hand, I was struck by a realization. This was what true family looked like. Not the conditional love of my parents or the toxic possessiveness of David, but unconditional support and protection. Marty wrapped an arm around me. "What do you want to do, Clara?" I took a deep breath, drawing strength from the love surrounding me. "I want to fight," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "I want to end this once and for all." Little did I know, my decision would set in motion a chain of events that would change all our lives forever. The crisp envelope landed on our kitchen table with a soft thud, but it might as well have been a bomb. I stared at David's name in the return address, my hands shaking as I reached for it. "You don't have to open it," Marty said softly, his hand on my shoulder. I shook my head. "No, I need to know what he's up to." With trembling fingers, I tore open the envelope. As I read the contents, my blood ran cold. "He's suing us," I whispered, "for the necklace and for custody of Toby." Marty's grip on my shoulder tightened. "He can't do that. He has no rights." "Apparently he thinks he does," I said, scanning the legal jargon. "He's claiming I denied him his parental rights all these years." Marty's face darkened. "This is ridiculous. After what he did breaking in here? We'll fight this, Clara, every step of the way." I nodded, but fear clawed at my insides. What if David won? What if he took Toby away from me? The next few days were a whirlwind of lawyer consultations and sleepless nights. Toby sensed the tension, becoming clingy and irritable. I felt like I was failing him all over again. It was during one particularly trying afternoon that the doorbell rang. I opened it to find David standing there, a smug smile on his face. "Hello, Clara," he said, as if he hadn't threatened us with a gun just weeks ago. "I think it's time we talked." Before I could slam the door in his face, Marty appeared behind me. "You're not welcome here," he said, his voice low and dangerous. David's smile didn't falter. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want what's mine." "Nothing here is yours," I spat. "Oh, but it is," David replied. "That necklace belongs to my family. And Toby, he's my son. It's time I took my rightful place in his life." Marty stepped forward, his presence imposing. "You lost any right to call yourself Toby's father the moment you questioned his paternity. Now I suggest you leave before I call the police. Again." David's eyes narrowed. "You think you're so clever, don't you? Playing happy families with my wife and my child. But I've got news for you, Marty. I've got friends in high places. One word from me, and your perfect little life comes crashing down." I felt Marty tense beside me, but his voice remained steady. "Is that so?" "Well, let me tell you something, David. You're not the only one with connections. You really want to play this game? Because I can guarantee you won't like how it ends." For a moment, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in David's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by anger. "This isn't over," he snarled, turning to leave. "You'll be hearing from my lawyers." As we watched him drive away, I turned to Marty. "What did you mean about connections?" Marty sighed. "I didn't want to worry you, but I've been doing some digging. David's not as squeaky clean as he'd like everyone to believe. I've got evidence of some questionable business practices." My eyes widened. "You mean?" "I mean, if he wants to play dirty, we've got ammunition," Marty said grimly. "But Clara, using this information, it could get ugly, really ugly." I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of the decision before me. On one hand, exposing David could end this nightmare once and for all. On the other, it could drag us all through the mud, affecting Toby in ways I couldn't even imagine. "What should we do?" I whispered. Marty pulled me close. "That's up to you, love. I'll support whatever you decide. But remember, we're not just fighting for the necklace anymore. We're fighting for our family." I nodded, my mind racing. As much as I wanted this to be over, I knew I had to think of Toby first. But how far was I willing to go to protect him? And at what cost? Taking a deep breath, I looked up at Marty. I think it's time we fought fire with fire. For Toby's sake." Little did I know, my decision would set in motion a chain of events that would change all our lives forever. The day after our confrontation with David, Marty's phone rang. His face tightened as he listened, and I felt my stomach drop. "That was Uncle Richard," he said, hanging up. "He wants to meet us. Now." Uncle Richard was a name I'd heard whispered with a mix of awe and fear. A powerful attorney with connections in every corner of the city, he was the Callahan family's secret weapon. An hour later, we sat in his opulent office, the city sprawling beneath us through floor-to-ceiling windows. Richard Callahan was every bit as imposing as I'd imagined, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, with an air of authority that filled the room. "So," he said, leaning back in his leather chair, "David Reeves is causing trouble." I nodded, my throat dry. "He's suing for custody of our son and demanding the return of a family heirloom." Richard's eyes narrowed. "And you're sure you want to fight this?" "Yes," I said firmly, gripping Marty's hand. "We can't let him win." A slow smile spread across Richard's face. "Good, because I've done some digging, and what I've found, well, let's just say Mr. Reeves isn't as squeaky clean as he'd like people to believe." He slid a file across the desk. As Marty and I pored over its contents, my eyes widened in shock. Fraudulent business deals, offshore accounts, even evidence of bribery, David's carefully constructed facade was nothing but a house of cards. "With this information," Richard continued, "we can not only crush his lawsuit, but potentially ruin him completely. The question is, are you prepared for the fallout?" I hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. "What kind of fallout?" "This will be messy," Richard warned. "Once we start, there's no going back. David will be destroyed professionally and personally. It could affect Toby, knowing what his biological father has done." I closed my eyes, torn between the desire for justice and the need to protect my son. But then I remembered David's smug face, his threats, the terror of that night he broke into our home. My resolve hardened. "Do it," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Richard nodded, reaching for his phone. "I'll set things in motion immediately." The next few days were a whirlwind. News of David's misdeeds spread like wildfire through the business community. His company's stock plummeted, partners distanced themselves, and whispers of a federal investigation filled the air. I watched it all unfold with a mix of satisfaction and guilt. But nothing prepared me for the moment Toby came home from school, tears in his eyes. "Is it true?" he asked, his voice small. "Is Dad really a bad guy?" My heart shattered. I pulled him close, struggling to find the right words. "Your father? He's made some mistakes, honey, but that doesn't change who you are." As I held my sobbing son, I wondered if we'd made the right choice. Had our desire for justice blinded us to the cost? But there was no time to dwell on regrets. That evening, as we sat down to dinner, a frantic pounding on our front door made us all jump. I opened it to find David, disheveled and wild-eyed. The man who had once exuded confidence and control now looked broken. "What have you done?" he hissed, pushing past me into the house. "You've ruined everything." Marty was there in an instant, placing himself between David and me. "You need to leave now." But David was beyond reason. He lunged forward, his hands reaching for my throat. "You bitch! You've destroyed my life!" As Marty grappled with David, I heard Toby's terrified scream from the kitchen. In that moment, watching my son witness this violence, something inside me snapped. I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy vase, and swung it with all my might. It connected with David's head with a sickening thud, and he crumpled to the floor. As sirens wailed in the distance and Toby sobbed in my arms, I stared at David's unconscious form. What had we become, and how could we ever come back from this? The days following David's attack blurred together in a haze of police statements, hushed conversations, and Toby's nightmares. I felt like I was walking on a tightrope, one wrong move away from plummeting into an abyss of guilt and regret. It was a crisp autumn morning when the call came. David wanted to meet. Alone. "Absolutely not," Marty insisted, his face etched with worry. "It's too dangerous." But I knew this had to end, for all of us. I need to do this, Marty. For Toby. For us. The cafe we agreed to meet at was nearly empty. I spotted David immediately, hunched over a coffee cup, a shadow of his former self. As I approached, he looked up, his eyes hollow and desperate. "Clara," he croaked, "thank you for coming." I sat across from him, my heart pounding. "What do you want, David?" He ran a trembling hand through his unkempt hair. "I've lost everything. My job, my reputation, my future. I need your help." I stared at him, incredulous. "My help? After everything you've done?" "Please," he begged, reaching for my hand. I pulled away instinctively. "If you just tell them it was all a misunderstanding, that you exaggerated." "Exaggerated?" My voice rose, drawing glances from nearby tables. "Like, you broke into our home, you threatened us with a gun, you tried to take our son away." David's face crumpled. I was desperate. I just wanted to be part of Toby's life, to have something of my old life back. For a moment I felt a flicker of pity. But then I remembered Toby's tears. the fear in his eyes. "You lost that right long ago, David, when you questioned if he was even yours." "I know," he whispered, "and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. But please, Clara, I'm begging you, help me salvage something. Anything." I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I had to say. "No, David, I won't help you. This ends now. You need to leave us alone, for good." His eyes hardened, a glimpse of the old David shining through. "You can't do this to me. You'll what?" I interrupted, my voice steady. "There's nothing left for you to threaten us with. It's over." I stood to leave, but David grabbed my wrist. "The necklace. At least give me that. It's all I have left of my family." I hesitated, my hand instinctively going to my throat where the necklace rested. For a moment, I considered it. Would giving him this small piece of his past finally bring us peace? But then I remembered the day David's mother had given it to me. "You're family now," she had said. "This belongs to you." I gently pried David's fingers from my wrist. "No, David, the necklace is mine, just like this life is mine, the life I've built with Marty and Toby, a life you have no place in anymore." As I turned to walk away, David called out, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry, Clara, for everything. I hope you can forgive me someday." I paused at the door, looking back at the broken man who had once been my husband. "Goodbye, David," I said softly. "I hope you find peace." Stepping out into the sunlight, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time in months, I could breathe freely. But as I walked home, a new worry gnawed at me. How would I explain this to Toby? How could I help him understand the complexities of forgiveness and closure? As I approached our house, I saw Toby and Marty in the front yard, laughing as they raked leaves. The sight of them, so carefree and happy, brought tears to my eyes. I realized then that while the past would always be a part of us, it didn't have to define our future. Taking a deep breath, I walked towards my family, ready to face whatever came next, together. The weeks following my confrontation with David were filled with a strange mix of relief and unease. Each day that passed without incident felt like a small victory, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the other shoe was about to drop. It was a quiet Sunday morning when it finally did. I was sipping coffee, scrolling through my emails, when I saw it. Subject line, "One last plea." From David. My finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity won out. I opened it, bracing myself for more manipulation, more threats. Instead, I found something unexpected. "Clara," it began, "I know I have no right to contact you, but I needed to say this. I'm leaving town, for good. I've realized that my presence here is toxic, not just for you and Toby, but for myself. I'm sorry for all the pain I've caused. I hope that one day, Toby might be willing to know me, but I understand if that never happens. The necklace is yours, as it should be. Take care of our son. Goodbye." I read it 3 times, tears blurring my vision. It felt like the final chapter of a book I'd been trying to close for years. "Clara?" Marty's voice startled me. "What's wrong?" I handed him my phone, watching his face as he read. When he finished, he looked at me, concern etched in his features. "Are you okay?" I took a deep breath, surprised to find that I was. "Yes," I said, realizing it was true. "I think I finally am." Just then, Toby bounded into the kitchen, full of 10-year-old energy. "Mom, Dad, can we go to the park today?" Marty and I exchanged glances. "Of course, buddy," Marty said. "Go get ready." As Toby raced upstairs, I turned to Marty. "I think it's time we talk to him. About everything." Marty nodded, pulling me into a hug. "Together," he said. That afternoon, sitting on a park bench while Toby played nearby, we told him the whole story. About David, about our past, about the recent turmoil. Toby listened with a maturity that both broke my heart and filled me with pride. When we finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, "So David is my real dad?" I felt Marty tense beside me, but before I could respond, Toby continued, "But Marty is my dad, right? The one who's always been there?" Tears sprang to my eyes as I pulled Toby close. "Yes, sweetheart, Marty is your dad in all the ways that truly matter." Toby nodded, seeming satisfied. "Okay, can I go play now?" As we watched him run off, Marty took my hand. "He's an amazing kid, Clara. We're lucky." I leaned into him, feeling a peace I hadn't known in months. "We are, and I'm lucky to have you. Through all of this, you've been my rock." Marty kissed the top of my head. "We're a team, remember? For better or worse." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, I found myself fingering the necklace. For so long it had felt like a burden, a reminder of past pain, but now I saw it differently. It was a symbol of resilience, of family, of love that endures. I unclasped it, holding it out to Marty. "I want you to have this," I said. His eyes widened. "Clara, no, it's yours." I shook my head, smiling. "It's ours, our family's, and one day it'll be Toby's, a reminder of where he came from and the love that brought him here." Marty's eyes glistened as he took the necklace, carefully placing it in his pocket. "I love you, Clara, more than I can say." "I love you too," I whispered, watching as Toby ran towards us, laughing and carefree. In that moment, I knew that whatever challenges life might bring, we would face them together. Our little family, bound not by blood or gold, but by something far stronger, love, trust, and the choice to stand by each other, come what may. As Toby reached us, throwing his arms around us both, I felt a sense of completion. The storm had passed, and we had emerged stronger, more united than ever. This, I realized, was our happily ever after. Not perfect, not without its scars, but real and beautiful in its imperfection. And I wouldn't have it any other way. The diamond on my finger caught the light, sending sparkles dancing across the pristine white tablecloth. I couldn't help but smile, twisting the ring back and forth, still not quite believing it was there. After 10 years, Michael had finally proposed. "Emily, dear, you're positively glowing." Eleanor, my soon-to-be mother-in-law, reached across the table and patted my hand. "I'm so thrilled," Michael finally popped the question. "Lord knows I've been dropping hints for years." I laughed, feeling a warmth spread through my chest. "Trust me, Eleanor, I've been dropping hints too. But you know Michael, always moving at his own pace." Eleanor's smile faltered for just a moment, so quickly I almost missed it. She took a sip of her tea, her perfectly manicured nails clinking against the delicate china. "Yes, well, that's my Michael. Always been a bit stubborn." Something in her tone made me pause. "Is everything all right, Eleanor?" She waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, of course, dear. It's just..." She leaned in, lowering her voice. "There's something you should know about our family. Something I probably should have told you years ago." My heart started to race. "What is it?" Eleanor glanced around the crowded restaurant as if checking for eavesdroppers. "It's about Michael's father. The story he's told you, well, it's not entirely true." I frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" "Michael said his father died when he was young." "That's what Michael believes," Eleanor said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But the truth is, his father left us, abandoned us when Michael was just a baby." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "What? But... Why would Michael lie about that?" Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "He doesn't know, Emily. I told him his father died. I couldn't bear for him to know the truth." My mind was reeling. How could Michael not know something so fundamental about his own life? And why had Eleanor kept this secret for so long? Before I could ask any more questions, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Michael. "Where are you? Thought we were meeting at 2?" I glanced at my watch and cursed under my breath. "I'm so sorry, Eleanor. I completely lost track of time. I'm supposed to be meeting Michael to look at venues." Eleanor nodded, composing herself quickly. "Of course, dear. Go. We can talk more later." As I gathered my things, Eleanor grabbed my wrist. "Emily, please, don't say anything to Michael. Not yet. Let me be the one to tell him." I hesitated, torn between my loyalty to Michael and the pleading look in Eleanor's eyes. Finally, I nodded. "All right. But soon, okay? He deserves to know." Eleanor smiled gratefully. "Thank you, dear. You're going to make a wonderful addition to our family." As I hurried out of the restaurant, my mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Joy at my engagement warred with the shock of Eleanor's revelation. How well did I really know the man I was about to marry? I spotted Michael waiting outside the first venue on our list, looking handsome as ever in his tailored suit. He grinned when he saw me, pulling me in for a kiss. "There's my beautiful fiancé," he said. "Ready to start planning our future?" I forced a smile, pushing down the guilt and confusion roiling in my stomach. "Of course. Let's go." As we walked into the venue, hand in hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that our perfect love story was about to get a lot more complicated. I stared at my phone, my heart sinking as I read Michael's text. "Sorry, babe. Can't make it to the florist today. Work emergency." This was the third time in 2 weeks he'd canceled our wedding preparations. I sighed, tossing the phone onto the couch. The excitement of planning our big day was quickly turning into frustration and doubt. The doorbell rang, startling me out of my thoughts. I opened the door to find Eleanor standing there, a sympathetic smile on her face. "Emily, dear, I hope I'm not intruding, but I thought you might need some company today." I felt a rush of gratitude. "Eleanor, you're a lifesaver. Please, come in." As we settled in the living room with cups of tea, Eleanor asked, "So how are the wedding plans coming along?" I couldn't hold back anymore. The words tumbled out in a rush. "Honestly, they're not. Michael keeps canceling on me. It's like he doesn't even care about the wedding." Eleanor's face softened with concern. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm sure that's not true. Michael can be difficult sometimes, but he loves you." I nodded, not entirely convinced. "I know. It's just, ever since you told me about his father, I can't help but wonder what else I don't know about him." Eleanor reached out and squeezed my hand. "Emily, I'm so sorry. I never meant to cause trouble between you two. Perhaps I shouldn't have said anything." "No," I said firmly. "I'm glad you told me. I just wish Michael would open up to me more." We spent the next hour talking, Eleanor sharing stories about Michael's childhood that made me laugh and reminded me why I fell in love with him. By the time she left, I felt a little better, but the nagging doubt remained. That evening Michael came home late, looking tired and distracted. "Hey," I said, trying to keep the accusation out of my voice. "How was your work emergency?" He barely glanced at me as he loosened his tie. Oh, yeah, just a client freaking out about nothing. You know how it is." I took a deep breath. "Michael, we need to talk about the wedding. You keep canceling our appointments, and I'm starting to feel like I'm planning this whole thing alone." He finally looked at me, his expression a mix of guilt and irritation. "Come on, Em. You know how busy I am at work. Can't you handle this stuff?" His dismissive tone sparked something in me. "This is our wedding, Michael. Not just mine. It should be important to both of us." Michael's face hardened. "Of course it's important to me. I just don't see why we need to make such a big deal out of every little detail." We argued back and forth, our voices rising until we were both shouting. Finally, Michael grabbed his keys. "I need some air," he snapped, slamming the door behind him. I collapsed onto the couch, tears streaming down my face. How had we gone from the joy of our engagement to this in just a few short weeks? My phone buzzed with a text from Eleanor. "Checking in. Hope everything's okay." Without thinking, I called her back. "Eleanor?" I choked out between sobs. "Can you come over? I really need someone to talk to." "Of course, dear," she said without hesitation. "I'll be right there." As I hung up, I felt a mix of relief and guilt. I should be talking to Michael, working things out with him. Instead, I was turning to his mother for comfort. But as I waited for Eleanor to arrive, I couldn't shake the feeling that she understood me better than Michael did right now, and that thought terrified me more than anything else. The clock on the nightstand glared at me, 2:37 a.m. I rolled over, the empty space beside me, a cold reminder of Michael's absence. This was the third night this week he'd stayed out late, claiming it was just innocent fun with the guys. "Bachelor's last hurrah," he'd said with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. I grabbed my phone, thumb hovering over Michael's name. No, I decided. I wouldn't be that person, constantly checking up on him. Instead, I opened my messages with Eleanor. "You awake?" I typed, then immediately regretted it. What kind of soon-to-be daughter-in-law texts her fiancé's mother in the middle of the night? To my surprise, a reply came almost instantly. "Can't sleep either? Want to talk?" Relief washed over me. "Michael's out again. I'm worried." "Come over for breakfast tomorrow. We'll chat." The next morning I found myself sitting at Eleanor's kitchen table, a steaming mug of coffee warming my hands. "I don't know what to do," I confessed. "It's like Michael's a different person lately." Eleanor's face was a mask of concern. "Has he said anything about his father?" I shook my head. "No, and I haven't brought it up. I'm scared it'll just make things worse." She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "Emily, dear, I'm so sorry. I never meant for my secret to cause such trouble. It's not your fault," I assured her, "but I can't help feeling like there's something Michael's not telling me." Just then, my phone buzzed. A text from Michael. "Where are you? Woke up and you were gone." I showed Eleanor the message, my frustration bubbling over. "He's one to talk. He didn't even come home last night." Eleanor's expression hardened. This isn't like Michael. Something's not right. As I typed a reply, another text came through. This one made my blood run cold. Who's Vanessa? Why does she keep calling you? I stared at the screen, confusion and anger warring inside me. Eleanor, I don't know any Vanessa. What is he talking about? Eleanor's face paled. Oh dear, I think I might know who Vanessa is. My heart raced. What? Who? She hesitated, then said softly, Vanessa is Michael's father's new wife. The room spun. What? But you said his father left when Michael was a baby. How could he? I'm so sorry, Emily. There's more to the story than I told you. Michael's father, he's been trying to reconnect. I've been keeping his messages from Michael, trying to protect him. I felt like I couldn't breathe. So all this time, Michael's father has been alive? Trying to contact him, and you've been hiding it. Eleanor nodded, tears in her eyes. I thought I was doing the right thing, but now, with Michael acting so strangely, I'm afraid he might have found out somehow. My mind raced. Could this explain Michael's recent behavior? The late nights, the secretiveness? Was he meeting with his long-lost father behind my back? I have to go, I said, standing abruptly. I need to talk to Michael. Eleanor grabbed my arm. Emily, wait, please be careful. Michael, he can be like his father sometimes. Unpredictable when he's upset. Her words sent a chill down my spine. What exactly was she implying? As I drove home, my emotions swirled like a storm. Anger at Michael for lying, at Eleanor for keeping secrets, at myself for not seeing what was happening right in front of me. I pulled into our driveway, steeling myself for the confrontation to come. But as I opened the front door, I froze. The house was in chaos. Drawers pulled out, contents strewn across the floor. And there, in the middle of it all, stood Michael, a suitcase at his feet and a wild look in his eyes. Michael, I whispered, fear gripping my heart. What's going on? He turned to me, his face a mask of pain and fury. I know everything, Emily. About my father, about the lies, and I know you've been talking to my mother behind my back. As he advanced towards me, I realized with terrifying clarity that I didn't know this man at all. And I had no idea what he was capable of. The morning of my wedding day dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the turmoil in my heart. I stood before the mirror, my white dress a ghostly reflection of the bride I was supposed to be. But all I could see were the shadows of doubt in my eyes. Last night's confrontation with Michael played on repeat in my mind. His anger, his accusations, the way he'd grabbed my arm when I tried to leave. In the end, he'd broken down, sobbing about his father's betrayal and begging for forgiveness. We'd talked for hours and he'd promised to be better, to be honest from now on. But as I adjusted my veil, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was making a terrible mistake. A soft knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Emily? Eleanor's voice called. Can I come in? I hesitated, then called out, Yes, come in. Eleanor entered, her eyes widening as she took in my appearance. Oh, Emily, you look beautiful. I tried to smile, but it felt forced. Thank you, Eleanor. She approached me, her face etched with concern. Are you sure about this, dear? After everything that's happened? I turned back to the mirror, avoiding her gaze. Michael explained everything. He was just upset about his father. We're going to work through it together. Eleanor's reflection frowned. Emily, I know my son. He's not always... Please, I interrupted, my voice sharper than I intended. I've made my decision. Eleanor nodded, her eyes sad. All right, dear, I just want you to be happy. As she left, I felt a pang of guilt. Eleanor had become such a source of comfort these past weeks, but she was still Michael's mother. I couldn't keep relying on her. The ceremony was a blur. I walked down the aisle, my eyes locked on Michael. He looked handsome in his tux, his smile bright and reassuring. But as I reached him, I noticed a slight tremor in his hands. We exchanged vows, Michael's voice steady as he promised love and fidelity. When it was my turn, I hesitated for just a moment, my doubts threatening to choke me. But I pushed through, the words leaving my lips even as my heart raced with uncertainty. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the officiant declared, and Michael pulled me in for a kiss. The small crowd of family and friends applauded, but it sounded distant and muffled to my ears. At the reception, I plastered on a smile, accepting congratulations and posing for photos. But my eyes kept drifting to Michael, watching as he downed glass after glass of champagne. Are you okay? I whispered during a quiet moment. He grinned, his eyes slightly unfocused. Never better, babe. We did it. As the night wore on, Michael became more boisterous, his laughter too loud, his movements unsteady. I saw Eleanor watching him with a mix of concern and resignation. Finally, as the last guests were leaving, Michael stumbled, nearly knocking over the gift table. I rushed to steady him, the smell of alcohol heavy on his breath. I think it's time we went home, I said softly. He laughed, pulling me close. Home? But the party's just getting started. I extricated myself from his grip, my patience wearing thin. Michael, please, you're drunk. His face darkened. Don't tell me what I am, he snapped, loud enough for the remaining guests to turn and stare. Embarrassment and anger flooded through me. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Instead, I felt like I was drowning. Eleanor appeared at my side, her hand on my arm. Let me help you get him home, she offered quietly. I nodded, too tired to argue. As we maneuvered a protesting Michael into the car, Eleanor squeezed my hand. Remember, Emily, she said, her voice low and urgent, you always have a choice. As we drove away, Michael already passed out in the back seat, her words echoed in my mind. A choice. But what choice did I have now? I was married, for better or for worse. Looking at Michael's slumped form in the rearview mirror, I couldn't help but wonder, was this the worse I'd signed up for? And if so, how much worse could it get? I zipped up the last suitcase, my heart fluttering with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Our honeymoon to Bali was just hours away, a chance to escape the tension of the past few weeks and start our married life on a positive note. Maybe, just maybe, this trip would be the fresh start Michael and I desperately needed. As I wheeled the luggage to the front door, my phone rang. Michael's name flashed on the screen. Hey, honey, I answered, trying to keep my voice light. Are you on your way home? Our flight's in 4 hours. There was a pause, then Michael's voice came through, strained and hesitant. I have some bad news. My stomach dropped. What is it? It's my mom, he said. She's in the hospital, some kind of sudden illness. I'm with her now. I sank onto the couch, my mind reeling. Oh my God, is she okay? What happened? The doctors aren't sure yet, Michael replied. But I don't think we can go on our honeymoon, not with Mom like this. The words hit me like a physical blow. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears of frustration and disbelief. Michael, are you sure? Can't your sister stay with her? We've been planning this trip for months. I know, he said, his voice rising. But she's my mother, Emily. I can't just leave her like this. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions inside me. Okay, I understand. Should I come to the hospital? No, Michael said quickly, then softened his tone. No, that's okay. You stay home. I'll call you with updates. As I hung up, a nagging doubt crept into my mind. Something about Michael's tone, the way he'd refused my offer to come to the hospital, it didn't sit right. Before I could talk myself out of it, I dialed Eleanor's number. It rang several times before going to voicemail. I frowned, my unease growing. I paced the living room, my mind racing. What if Eleanor wasn't really sick? What if this was just another of Michael's lies? But why would he lie about this? Hours passed, and still no word from Michael. My calls went straight to voicemail. By evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my keys and drove to the hospital. At the reception, I asked for Eleanor's room number, only to be met with confusion. I'm sorry, ma'am, the nurse said, but we don't have any patient by that name. My world tilted on its axis. That's impossible. My husband said she was admitted this morning. The nurse shook her head sympathetically. I've been on shift all day. No, Eleanor has been admitted. I stumbled out of the hospital, my mind in chaos. Michael had lied. Again. But why? Where was he really? As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from an unknown number, but the content made my blood run cold. Your husband isn't who you think he is. Meet me at the Bluebird Cafe in an hour if you want the truth. V. Vanessa. Michael's father's new wife. The woman at the center of all this chaos. I stood in the hospital parking lot, the weight of decision heavy on my shoulders. Should I meet this mysterious Vanessa? Should I confront Michael? Or should I finally listen to that voice inside me that had been screaming for weeks, telling me to run? My fingers hovered over my phone, ready to reply to the text. In that moment, I knew my decision would change everything. There was no going back from here. With a deep breath, I typed my response, sealing my fate with 4 simple words. I'll be there. Emily. As I got into my car, heading towards the unknown, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a ruined honeymoon. This was the beginning of the end of everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and the man I thought I loved. My hands trembled as I pushed open the door to the Bluebird Cafe. The aroma of coffee and pastries did nothing to calm my frayed nerves. I scanned the room, my heart pounding, until I spotted a woman in the corner booth. She looked up, her eyes meeting mine, and I knew instantly this was Vanessa. As I slid into the seat across from her, she spoke first. "Emily, I presume? Thank you for coming." I nodded, studying her face. She was beautiful, with an air of confidence that made me feel instantly inadequate. "You said you had the truth about Michael. I'm listening." Vanessa sighed, pushing a manila folder across the table. "Everything you need to know is in here, but I warn you, it's not pretty." With shaking hands, I opened the folder. Photos spilled out. Michael with another woman, laughing, kissing. Dates stamped in the corner showed this wasn't just a one-time thing. It had been going on for months. "Who is she?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "His secretary," Vanessa replied. "But that's not all. Keep reading." I flipped through documents, bank statements, emails, even a copy of a lease agreement. The pieces started to fall into place, each revelation more devastating than the last. "He's been embezzling from his company," I said, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "And he's planning to leave the country?" Vanessa nodded grimly. "With her? The honeymoon cancellation? It was just an excuse. He's planning to disappear with the money and his mistress." I felt like I was drowning, gasping for air in a sea of betrayal. "But why? Why tell me all this?" "Because," Vanessa leaned forward, her eyes intense, "Michael isn't just hurting you. He's hurting everyone around him, including his father, my husband. We want to stop him before it's too late." Just then, my phone rang. Eleanor's name flashed on the screen. I answered, my voice shaky. "Eleanor?" "Emily, dear. I've been trying to reach you. Is everything all right? Michael said you two had to cancel your honeymoon because of me, but I'm perfectly fine." The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. I ended the call, my mind racing. "She's not sick. She never was." Vanessa's expression was a mix of sympathy and determination. "Now you know the truth. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" I stood up abruptly, a plan forming in my mind. "I'm going to confront him. And then I'm going on that honeymoon, but not with Michael." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" A grim smile played on my lips. "I'm taking Eleanor instead. Let's see how Michael likes it when his lies catch up to him." I rushed home, my mind a whirlwind of emotions and plans. As I burst through the door, I found Michael packing a suitcase. "Em," he exclaimed, surprise and guilt flashing across his face. "I thought you'd be out. I was just—" "Packing for our canceled honeymoon?" I interrupted, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Or maybe for your little getaway with your secretary." The color drained from Michael's face. "What are you talking about?" I threw the folder on the bed, photos and documents scattering. "I know everything, Michael. The affair, the embezzlement, all of it." He lunged for the folder, but I was quicker. I snatched it back, backing away. "Don't even think about it. It's over, Michael. I'm leaving and I'm taking everything we have. You'll have nothing left when I'm done." Michael's expression morphed from shock to anger. He advanced towards me, his fists clenched. "You can't do this to me. I won't let you." Fear coursed through me, but I stood my ground. "Try and stop me. I dare you." As Michael raised his hand, the front door burst open. Eleanor rushed in, her face a mask of fury. "Michael Andrew Thompson, don't you dare touch her!" Michael froze, his eyes darting between Eleanor and me. I took advantage of his confusion, grabbing my pre-packed suitcase. "Come on, Eleanor," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "We have a plane to catch." As we walked out, leaving a stunned Michael behind, I felt a strange mix of pain, relief, and exhilaration. The life I thought I knew was over, but a new chapter was just beginning. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The moment I stepped through our front door, the tension in the air was palpable. Michael sat on the couch, his face a mask of barely contained anger. Our impromptu honeymoon with Eleanor had given me time to gather my thoughts, but nothing could have prepared me for this confrontation. "Welcome home," Michael said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Did you enjoy your little vacation with my mother?" I dropped my suitcase, steeling myself for the battle ahead. Cut the act, Michael. We both know what's really going on here. He stood, his eyes flashing dangerously. Oh, and what exactly is that, Emily? Your affair, for starters, I spat, my voice trembling with rage. And let's not forget the embezzlement. Did you really think you could just run away with your secretary and all that stolen money? Michael's face paled, then flushed with anger. Who told you? Was it Vanessa? That meddling bitch? It doesn't matter who told me, I shot back. What matters is that it's true, isn't it, Michael? He lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You don't understand. I had no choice. I wrenched away from him, my heart pounding. No choice? You had every choice. You chose to lie, to cheat, to steal. I did it for us, he yelled, his composure crumbling. For our future, I laughed bitterly. Our future. There is no our anymore, Michael. You destroyed that the moment you decided to betray me. Suddenly the door burst open. Eleanor rushed in, followed by a man I'd never seen before. Michael's face drained of all color. Dad? He whispered, his voice small and uncertain. The man, Michael's father, stepped forward, his face a mix of sadness and determination. It's time to face the music, son. Michael's eyes darted between us all, like a cornered animal. You don't understand, any of you. I was going to make it right. I just needed more time. More time for what? I demanded. More lies? More betrayal? Eleanor moved to my side, her hand on my shoulder. Emily, dear, I'm so sorry. I never imagined Michael would go this far. As the reality of the situation crashed down around us, Michael's facade finally crumbled. He sank to his knees, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, he sobbed. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. But his words rang hollow in my ears. The man I thought I knew, the man I had loved for 10 years and married just weeks ago, was a stranger to me now. It's over, Michael, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. I want a divorce. He looked up at me, his eyes pleading. Emily, please. We can work this out. I'll make it right, I swear. I shook my head, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. No, Michael, you've had your chances. I'm done. As if on cue, there was a knock at the door. 2 police officers entered, their faces grim. Michael Thompson? One of them said. We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of embezzlement and fraud. As they read him his rights and led him away in handcuffs, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Relief, sadness, anger, and an overwhelming sense of loss. The life I thought I had, the future I had planned, it was all gone in an instant. Eleanor wrapped her arm around me as we watched Michael being driven away. What will you do now, dear? She asked softly. I took a deep breath, feeling both terrified and strangely liberated. I don't know, I admitted. But for the first time in a long time, I feel like I can finally start living for myself. As the police car disappeared around the corner, I realized that this wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of a new chapter in my life, one filled with uncertainty, but also with the promise of freedom and self-discovery. The courthouse loomed before me, a monument to the end of my marriage and the beginning of my new life. I took a deep breath, steadying myself for what lay ahead. Eleanor's reassuring hand on my shoulder gave me the strength to push open the heavy doors. As we entered the courtroom, I saw Michael for the first time since his arrest. He looked haggard, his once confident demeanor replaced by a shell of a man. Our eyes met briefly, and I felt a twinge of something. Not love, not anymore, but a complex mixture of pity, anger, and regret. The proceedings began, a blur of legal jargon and formalities. I barely registered the words until the judge addressed me directly. Mrs. Thompson, do you wish to make a statement before the court renders its decision? I stood, my legs shaky but my resolve firm. Yes, Your Honor. As I faced the courtroom, I saw not just Michael, but the faces of those whose lives he'd affected, his parents, our friends, even his former secretary, who looked as broken as I felt. 10 years ago, I fell in love with a man I thought I knew, I began, my voice growing stronger with each word. I built my life around him, dreamed of a future with him, but that man never truly existed. Instead, I married a stranger, a liar, a cheater, a thief. Michael flinched at my words, but I pressed on. I stand here today not just as a victim of his crimes, but as a survivor. I've lost my marriage, my trust, and the future I thought I'd have. But I've gained something too, the truth and the strength to face it. I turned to Michael, meeting his gaze head on. I forgive you, Michael. Not for your sake, but for mine. I refuse to let your betrayal define me or my future. As I sat down, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The judge's verdict came swiftly. Michael was sentenced to prison for his financial crimes, and our divorce was granted. Outside the courthouse, Eleanor enveloped me in a tight hug. "I'm so proud of you, Emily," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I pulled back, studying her face. "Eleanor, I don't know how to thank you for everything." She smiled, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Oh, my dear, you don't need to thank me. Your family, no matter what." Those words, so simple yet so profound, broke something open inside me. I began to sob, releasing all the pain, anger, and fear I'd been holding on to for so long. Eleanor held me, her presence a balm to my battered soul. As my tears subsided, I realized something fundamental had shifted within me. The betrayal still hurt, the wounds were still raw, but I was no longer defined by them. I was more than Michael's ex-wife, more than a victim of his deceit. I was Emily, strong, resilient, and ready to write my own story. "What now?" Eleanor asked gently as we walked away from the courthouse. I took a deep breath, feeling the warm sun on my face and the promise of possibility in the air. Now I start over. I find out who I am without Michael, without the lies and the doubt. Eleanor squeezed my hand. "And you won't be alone. I'll be right here every step of the way." I smiled, feeling a genuine spark of hope for the first time in months. I know. And that means more to me than you could ever know. As we drove away, leaving behind the shattered remains of my old life, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges I couldn't yet imagine. But I was ready to face them, armed with the truth, supported by unexpected friendships, and fueled by a newfound belief in myself. The betrayal that had nearly broken me had also set me free. And in that freedom, I found the strength to embrace the unknown, to forgive without forgetting, and to love again, starting with myself. As Eleanor and I planned a celebratory dinner, I realized that sometimes the most beautiful relationships can bloom from the ashes of betrayal. My story wasn't over, it was just beginning. And this time I would be the author of my own happily ever after.